Wayne Selk. I love talking about managed service providers and small to medium businesses. Wayne is a cybersecurity specialist with CompTIA. CompTIA is a big organization. It's a non-profit that helps service providers and vendors. But his take on cybersecurity is very interesting. Background in the military, is with the Air Force, 12 years, I believe. Then semantics, some other government jobs, and then he eventually ended up at ConnectWise, one of my certainly favorite organizations. Did a lot of work with them. They were responsible for a lot of our tools when I had my managed service provider practice. And now I start the conversation off with what should small businesses be concerned about with cybersecurity? With the introduction of AI now, Wayne describes it as double-edged sword. It helps and then it hurts, because not only does it help the small to medium businesses, but it also helps the threat actors and the bad actors as well. But great conversation on that. We also talk about the great Pitch It contest with ConnectWise. He was part of it, where he was one of the judges. We talk a little bit about that experience as well. But it's a great conversation with Wayne about cybersecurity, about small to medium businesses and managed service providers. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. So I will be having conversations with a lot of the coaches and the finalists from 2023, and just kind of talking about them a little bit and their solution in some future podcasts. We want to make kind of an introduction to that as well.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, as the years progress, more people are getting involved, and then back to these vendors looking for a way to create a name for themselves with consistency. They need people like you, which is why I'm so thrilled that you're willing to work with me and work with us on this. So you're going to be you've graciously accepted to host these, and I appreciate that. Where you'll interview all our contestants. You're also going to interview last year's head coaches, last year's judges, last year's finalists. So you're doing all that. And I think it's important, for if you're a vendor and you're watching these, take note of this and how you get more involved. Watch the program. Watch what these men and women are all doing with us, because they're doing a lot. That's how you grow your business. If you're an MSP, watch these things. Get to know who people are and then inquire, because you're all looking to have stack alignment and you're all looking for credible and reputable businesses. We're vetting them out for you. We're putting them on display for you. Watch them, ask questions, find out, do your due diligence. Don't wait until IT Nation Connect to see you like at a booth and then buy 5 or 6 different technologies that you don't need.
So 2024 Pitch It, ConnectWise Pitch It. What's new and exciting about it?
Oh my Lord. So for those that have not followed any of this, I took over the Pitch It program 2 years ago, and we've had such great success, with like really great success. And went from, it's become one of the most predominant programs in the space now. Matter of fact, I was doing some research the other day, and about 5 or 6 other pitching things have spun off from mine and from ConnectWise Pitch It with other people that are running it. So it's great to see, because I think it's the thing about Pitch It is it's all about about innovation. It's all about being daring and willing to do things, right? I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's a scary situation. You have to be ignorantly optimistic, and you have to be willing to maybe fail a lot more than you'll succeed, and you have to have very thick skin. But you always have to be innovative and creative. So it's nice to see that this has spun off into other groups that have started doing it, because I think the hardest challenge for most startup vendors is getting their name out there, right? Getting people to know that they exist. And the reality of it is you can't just be there one time. You have to show consistency. You have to be in there for the long haul, for the partners to really be able for you to establish credibility, right? Because there's been plenty of fly-by-night businesses that have came out big and gone in 6 months. And for partners, their whole business is built around these vendors, these products. So they're making lifelong business decisions off of these. So, so it's great, it's exciting, but back to the program itself, it's jumped leaps and bounds. It went from being just a competition where they picked a few people, a few really good product companies to pitch at live at IT Nation Connect, to where we turn into an accelerated incubator program it's a season. It's literally a competitive season now at this point. And went from 5 or 7 or maybe even 10 vendors that are involved until they narrowed down to 3. To 2 years ago was 18. Last year was 26.
Wow.
And we had way more applications than that. That was just the ones that we thought were the best fit. So yeah, we're getting ready, and we're getting ready to put out the press release in a couple of days, because then the application process will start February 1st. So I recommend anybody from around the entire globe to apply. We've had over just last year alone 6 different countries represented, between the U.S., Canada, to Israel, to Australia, to New Zealand, to the U.K. They all involved in this competition.
Very, very excited to talk to you, Wayne Selk. Thank you so much for your time. What should small to medium businesses be doing right now? I mean, Wall Street Journal this morning talked about how, especially Chinese cybercrime is the highest it's ever been. What should small to medium-sized businesses be doing about cybersecurity?
Honestly, paying attention to the news, like you just mentioned, the Wall Street Journal had a wonderful article this morning. Small businesses, I think sometimes they fail to realize that they have data that is vitally important for other folks. Now, whether or not the small business owner believes that data is valuable, folks can use it and they can make a lot of money off of it, which puts them the small business in a very awkward position, because now they have customer data that they have shared, which the customer probably did not want shared. And so they need to protect that data to the best of their ability. Honestly, the easiest way to do that is make sure that your employee accounts have multi-factor authentication, right? So if the credentials are compromised, at least there's another layer there to prevent them from getting access. That's one. Right, would be make sure that you have good perimeter security controls in place, whether that's it should be a firewall. There should be some type of intrusion detection or intrusion prevention type system available, and make sure that the employees are well trained on what to look for, not to click on links and emails. I know that sounds very cliche today, right? But it's true. It still happens. Phishing and business email compromise, both of which utilize social engineering very well, and links in an email to get into your system and stay persistent. It's horrible.
It really is horrible. We hear time and time again, and the stories just get worse and worse, Wayne. I think one of the worst ones I heard, of course, and I don't want to get into the battle of the bottom here, but I think it was a plastic surgery facility in Las Vegas, where the bad actors not only went to compromise their system, but they started going after the patients and found their photos pre and post surgery, and then started going after them personally. So it's just these small businesses are just targets.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you bring up a medical issue like that. I was just last week at the Cybersecurity Summit in Silicon Valley, and Elon Ben Ari, who's the Chief Medical Information Officer for the Northern California VA Health System, and I actually talked about healthcare and the impact cybersecurity has on us as individuals. So it's kind of, we even talked about implanted medical devices, which are also connected to the network, right? I don't know if you remember back in the day when Dick Cheney, I think he was vice president, had a pacemaker implanted, and Secret Service was worried even back then. That was what, mid 90s.
Yeah. Bush.
They were worried that someone could hack his pacemaker and mess with it and take out the vice president.
Mm.
How interesting, right? I mean, what the heck? So
Yeah. So if you are a small to medium-sized business, and like you bring up valid concerns, most of these SMBs don't want to be involved, right? They want to just outsource. So we're former managed service providers. How should a small and medium-sized business search for an MSP, and how should they qualify them?
So CompTIA actually has a resource for small, medium business owners, which is free. You can go to connect.comptia.org and search for a CEO's guide to picking an MSP or something along those lines. And really, the community has done a great job of outlining questions you should be asking your MSP to ensure that they have your best interest at heart. Again, the resource is free for folks to be able to look at. Again, CompTIA is a trade association, right? We don't we're vendor neutral and a not for profit. So it's a great resource to look at for the small and medium business owner.
Yeah, very important. Generally speaking, the small to medium business, the SMB, wants to focus on the great service or product that they have, and they probably outsource their accounting and their HR and things like that. So IT would just be a natural extension of that. And there's so many really, really good, dedicated managed service providers, SMBs, wherever you are.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, very much so.
So you started, as far as 95, you were in the College of the Air Force. What did the Air Force teach you?
Oh, the Air Force actually taught me quite a bit. So I grew up wanting to be an accountant. Yeah, my
Unusual.
grandfather. Well, the funny thing is, technology is nothing but numbers anyway, right? So,
yeah, good point.
And so it was. Computers were actually a hobby of mine, which makes my career even that much more interesting. That I was able to have a career doing something that I just enjoy. Folks would always ask me, "Oh my God, you always have a smile on your face." I'm like, "This isn't a job for me. This is just fun times, So yes, I was in the Air Force for 13 years. I started out as a personnel specialist, and then became so good at interacting with our personnel record system, our electronic personnel record system. I cross-trained into becoming a personnel systems manager, which is nothing more fancy title for a glorified DBA on mini mainframe. And that was awesome. I enjoyed it immensely, my time in the military.
And of course, DBA is a database administrator. And yeah, back then, were you doing SQL commands?
Kinda not really.
I see.
Mainframe operates a little bit differently. We had something in the Air Force called the DIN data update. So it was a data identification number, 3-digit character, and there were characters for your entire personnel record. And anyway, you had to be a really good whiz bang at doing these updates, because some of them would be miles long to update transactions. So was a lot of fun. And I also taught myself Unix. System,
Ah.
yeah, that was even more fun.
Yeah, it was such a novelty back then. Those of us like myself that did that, there weren't many books on it. There were some, but those that had an acumen for it, we kind of stood out, and because many people just didn't want to touch it. It was fun times in the '90s with technology.
Yeah, and then I was out of the military during Y2K. That was a lot of
Yeah,
fun. Oh my god, just waiting for the systems to flop out. Oh.
it was as we hear, the year changing, like in the islands, right, in the Polynesians, all right, they're still living. Everything is still okay. So then in 2003, you went to Symantec for 8 years, but you still didn't really touch security there.
Well, I did, but I touched security from a different point of view, right? So that was actually the application side of the house. My networking background, along with the operating system, and then dealing with a lot of the three-letter agencies everybody knows and loves, was really a precursor to getting into governance, risk, and compliance while I was at Symantec. So there was a lot of things during my time at Symantec which actually involved making sure that the applications were, what's the right word, solving for some of the safeguards that the government needed to implement, right? Yes. So there was that too. Plus, being able to deal with and handle challenges for the applications actually going into very large enterprise type environments. So it was more of a consultative security set than it was anything else.
And then in 2011, Integrity Data Solutions here in the Tampa area. That's about 5 years ago. That's the MSP.
Yes, that was it was a break fix MSP that I started. I had a couple of employees. We had, we were growing okay, and then my wife said I needed to go back to corporate America and get a job. Again, I was having too much fun. Anyway, I don't know.
Right. Was she right in the long run?
I'm glad I went back into corporate America. I got to work with, funny enough, a lot of friends that I had known previously, especially while I was at Symantec. Even my time at International Network Services. John Ford started Sienna Group, which is where I went after I went back into corporate America. We were a niche governance, risk, and compliance shop here out of West Chase, and just a lot of fun. Again, a lot of fun doing assessments around 800/171, HIPAA, all kinds of stuff for clients. Yeah, around the country.
Does sound like fun. So then you went to ConnectWise, big company here. I'm very good friends with them. We do a lot of business with them. You were there for 3 years. You did cybersecurity initiatives there. So you're formally now in cybersecurity, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's different layers of cyber, right? Cybersecurity is actually a mindset, and then there's, like I said, there's those niche spots where you may be a pen tester, you may be an ethical hacker, right? You can do governance, risk, compliance initiatives. There's other, you can consult across various topic areas within the umbrella of cybersecurity. So that was the first time I really had a title associated with cybersecurity in it. But it wasn't my first foray into cybersecurity. ConnectWise acquired Sienna in November of 2018, which is how we ended up there.
That's right. You're at Sienna as a consultant there. Yeah. And that's right. I remember when that happened. Yeah, and and then from that move, now you're at CompTIA that we mentioned before, and you're cybersecurity programs executive director. It's a great organization, CompTIA.
It is. And the funny thing, Joe, is most people only see it as certifications where they kind of miss the boat is, and I mentioned it earlier, we're a trade association. I think we're the largest IT professional trade association in the world.
Mm.
So there's so much CompTIA has to offer outside of the certification set, from training, uh, educational content, bringing folks together to talk about their own experiences through thought leadership. We have our own conferences that folks get to attend. The fun part about our conferences is that it's not a sales event, right? Unlike all the other ones you
Many,
go to.
many, yeah, yeah.
So it's really all about that education, awareness, and raising the level of understanding for the community as a whole. That doesn't mean we don't have vendors or distributors or other associates that are there to actually help round out the ecosystem that is the solution provider community, because we do. But they're up on stage and they're actually sharing what you want them to share through their marketing stuff. And
Mm.
anyway, so it becomes really a fun time because you get to network with folks. Everybody leaves their ego, their title, and their logos at the door.
Nice.
Yeah, which I don't know of any other place where you're going to find that.
Hmm. Now, when you say community, you're not talking about the small to medium sized businesses, kind of the end clients. You're talking about the service providers, like you said, the managed service providers, the technology service providers, the vendors that support them, etc.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And we're global, right? We're in 6 regions today: um, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Benelux, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Ireland, North America, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and we added ASEAN, Association for Southeast Asian Nations. That's a mouthful. Uh,
Hmm.
Last year, which is comprised, I think, of 12 countries. Don't hold me to that. It might be more, but there's a lot of stuff, and we have other plans to expand into other areas like Latin America. Um, Probably on the horizon, maybe next year, maybe this year.
No, yeah, sure. I mean, the year's young. You started the conversation off with like, what should small businesses be worried about with cybersecurity? And now let's talk about managed service providers. I mean, they now are. When I talk to MSPs, three things keep them up at night, and it's been pretty consistent for the last couple of years. The first is cybersecurity. They're worried about their clients clicking on some emails, like you mentioned before, and their flat rates, and then now they've got to work all this time to get them back up. And do they have the correct tools? The second is talent. They're worried about their big time techs leaving, how they're going to fill their spaces and how they're going to get new ones. And then third is growth. How are they going to grow with all of these other concerns? So with cybersecurity being, at the forefront, what should MSPs themselves look at outsourcing some of the different layers of security, or should they be educated on it? It's a lot to take in, as you said. It's a mindset.
Yeah, it is, and it is a lot to take in. However, it's not insurmountable, and that's one of the benefits for what I was doing at ConnectWise in my cybersecurity initiatives role, was to actually create a foundational set of best practices for solution providers, right? To be able, and the playbooks to go with it on how to actually implement some of those security controls. I
Hmm.
got feedback during some of the events, though, that I might have a challenge because of doing it with you know that company behind me. People might not take me seriously. Or
And why wouldn't somebody take you seriously? Because they think,
I don't know. Everybody has different opinions. I mean,
right.
Of whether it's, and pick any of the vendors, right? So it's just interesting, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes, well, anyway, I could go down a rabbit hole with that one, but I won't. The challenge for small businesses, specifically in the MSP space, they believe technology is going to help solve their problem, and that is the furthest thing from reality. So here we go, right? So there's 3 pillars that folks need to pay attention to in cyber, and let's set aside zero trust for just a second, because that introduces 2 more pillars. So let's not complicate things by talking about zero trust right away. Let's get the basics down first. People, process, and technology are the 3 pillars, and they are in that order for a reason. Right? You have to secure your people first. That means your people are your first line of defense, which then bleeds into your process, which then you solve your gaps with technology, not the other way around. Because here's what happens. So let's put on our business hat for just a second. I listen to somebody and I go buy 500 licenses or a product that cost me $50,000. Now, I implement it. You know what happens? I didn't train my staff. It sits on a shelf. I'm not using it. My customers aren't buying it. I just wasted money. Happens every single day, doesn't it? Instead, take it in the other order. Work on your people. Use the existing tools that you already have. But here's where I'm going to differentiate from everybody else. Look at the risk to your business as an MSP. Just look at your own business first. Don't worry about your customers, because you too are a small business. In some cases, a medium business, but let's just say we're small. So hopefully everybody has business objectives outlined, right? And a business plan. You'd be shocked to hear how many do not have a business plan as an MSP. But I'm not going to digress. You know what your business objectives are. What are the risks that are going to prevent you from obtaining those objectives? And where I want you to start is look at your people first. Now, you may have the right people. Maybe they're in the wrong seat. You might have the right seat, but the wrong person. Maybe you don't have the skills, right? So there's risks to your business here that we're not looking at from a cybersecurity perspective. Once you've aligned your people to your risk through to your objectives, then you can move to your process. Make sure your process is aligned to your people with the risk to your objectives. And then you're going to have a gap analysis. What's left? What are all the risks that you now need to account for that you don't have people for and you don't have a process to manage to? That's where you need to focus your attention and energy on your tech. Spend your money wisely.
People, process, technology. Because the technology itself isn't going to solve the problem, as you said.
Nope. You need people and you need a process. And you also need to know what the technology is solving for. Otherwise, it's a waste of money.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we do see that. I mean, I always attest to MSPs are way overtooled, right? They go to these shows, they get too many tools, they're not using them, and they're shiny, the shiny syndrome there. And I know I did at my MSP. I just had too many. And so what is zero trust? You said to take that out. Let's talk about zero trust for a second.
So zero trust in its purest form is really to trust nothing, including yourself. right? Whether it's your users, your systems, your other devices, the applications themselves. We're sometimes we're too trusting, and I think part of the reason for that is because we lean so heavily into technology, we forget there's vulnerabilities there. We didn't account for the risk of those vulnerabilities, and we don't put the controls up around the technology or around our people or around our process to prevent things from happening. Now, I'm not saying bad things still don't happen, because honestly, someone's going to make a misstep. There's going to be an issue, a potential incident, or a potential compromise. The goal, though, is to minimize the impact. And so when we talk about likelihood, which you cannot control, we talk about impact. Those are the two components of risk, right? So, wonderful conference, Write a Boom. One day, I'm sure I'll get an invitation to attend. But the the thing here is there's more to the boom and the blast radius that I think a lot of folks focus on. There's left of boom, which is making sure that you're prepared, that you've done everything you can. So when that impact hits, how big is that crater going to be? And remember, it's not just the incident itself. There's other things that fall down and rain down that impact reputation. Your customer's perception of what just happened. Others, the industry as a whole. We all take a hit when a solution provider has an incident or a compromise. Every single solution provider around the world takes a hit to a reputation.
You mentioned multi-factor authentication earlier. That's just a simple thing. Even as a consumer, we can all do to many of our sites that we log in. I mean, heck, Wayne, even when I go to buy gas, they ask me for my zip code, right? They're multi-factoring. So has that been broken? Has that been compromised? Is that really the best, simplest, quickest way somebody could help?
It slows them down. So can you get around multi-factor? Absolutely. You can get around anything if you have the time, right? That's just a sad fact of reality. But it slows them down. The component here, Joe, honestly, is paying attention to what's going on in your environment. I would hazard a guess, maybe 25, 30% of the solution providers around the globe are actually monitoring their logs and have some type of event correlation and configuration for alerting, continuous monitoring and alerting, right? It's that you asked about earlier, what's one of those things that you can outsource or you should outsource? And there are plenty of security operations centers through a managed security service provider that actually augment the MSP space. Right? And I think in the next 2 years, we're going to start seeing an uptick of MSPs recognizing they have an IT role with a cyber umbrella, and they need to go to a specialized solutions provider in an MSSP to provide a lot of the information security type of services, right? They're two separate job responsibilities. I'm not saying IT doesn't have a role in cyber, because everybody does. HR, finance, the C-suite, take your pick. The sales floor, everybody is responsible for cybersecurity. IT is responsible for making sure that it's properly implemented. The information security team is there to ensure that it's monitored, managed, and we can report things and lock things down. Work hand in hand with the IT team to make sure that everything is good.
How is AI influencing cybersecurity?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's a double-edged sword. So we'll take the good first. In a good way, I think it's actually helping us become more aware of challenging scenarios that are plausible inside of the solution provider space today. It can also help us write and craft responses to objections from customers, because you can actually peel back um, and craft language to actually overcome objectives objections, that you may not have had the experience of dealing with before. So there's some good to AI. I'll give you another good one. We're partnered with the Rochester Institute of Technology. And right now, I have the honor, privilege, actually, along with 6 other individuals. We're going through a cohort to formulate an AI-based incident response application. So another fantastic way. Rochester Institute actually got a $5 million grant from the National Science Foundation. Yeah, so it's important, right? So we can actually use AI to help combat or respond to incidents that might be going on. More pinpoint, accurate, focused, right? To, again, hopefully minimize that impact and come out on the right side at least somewhat intact. Maybe we lose a finger, I don't know, but we don't lose a limb, right? Hopefully it may be just a scratch, but anyway, bad side. The bad side of AI. The threat actors are actually using AI in many of the similar ways, right? They're actually crafting those business emails and phishing emails to better social engineer, make it more realistic, to get into the environment, which is it's problematic, right? So sometimes you have to take the good with the bad. I just hope that we can develop a lot more good to combat the bad sooner. Honestly.
Yeah, I hope so as well. What worries you about cybersecurity, Wayne? What keeps you up at night?
Well, since I'm no longer really actively practicing anymore, even with my governance, risk, and compliance set, I don't have too much that worries me. Personally, I do worry about the solution provider community as a whole. And that's kind of why I wanted to take this role over here at CompTIA, was to help facilitate a mechanism by which solution providers can actually raise their awareness and understanding about cybersecurity, what it means to their business and what it means to their clients, and develop programs, again, vendor neutral, to help them get through this journey, at least from a foundational security standpoint, right? At least get them a foundational security program in place. And I don't care, Joe, if they're solopreneurs or 500 employees. It really doesn't matter. Everybody has some things that they need to put in play in order to be successful and come out of this on the other side.
Yeah, they certainly do. What should MSPs know about CompTIA and cybersecurity specifically and what you do there, Wayne? What should they know?
They need to know that CompTIA is here to help. And by CompTIA, I mean the entire community.
Mm.
So it's funny when new folks come in and they attend an event or they jump on a member meetup or they have interactions even with a lot of the vendor community that's in the community itself. They're like just blown away at, well, you're not selling me anything. No, I'm just here to help you be successful. How can I help you be successful? We have a lot to offer. I mean, look, if I just peel back cybersecurity programs for just a second, I'll start with the Trustmark. The Trustmark is a revamp of the Security Trustmark Plus, which was launched by CompTIA in 2008, updated in 2014. We updated it last March and relaunched it. It now has 177 safeguards, mostly the Center for Internet Security, critical security controls, IG1, IG2, and some of IG3, believe it or not. We have some ISO 27000 in there, 800 171, which is controlled unclassified information. New York Department of Financial Services, we have a couple of things in there, and then a lot of privacy. Data flow, all that kind of fun stuff, right? Because here's the thing. The Trustmark actually gives you a great foundation to do whatever you want to do down the road. Whether you want to do a SOC 2, whether you want to go ISO 27000, you want to do NIST cybersecurity framework, COBIT, I don't care. Pick something. But we're going to give you the ability to understand what does this mean when you look to do some of that other stuff. Let's get all of your governance aligned. Let's get your risk aligned to the business. Let's start protecting the MSP. Later this year with the Trustmark, we're going to have 2 new profiles. We're going to have a vendor profile, which is going to align to a third-party vendor risk management program that we will be launching this year as well, which also ties back to the Trustmark because third-party risk is huge, right? And then we're also going to have an end user profile. Both those profiles are going to be aligned to the same safeguards the MSP is currently doing with the Trustmark. The reason for that, Joe, is we want to simplify what the MSP needs to be paying attention to. Right? So if they know, because they've actually gone through all the safeguards, how that safeguard should look, it makes having the conversation easier with the vendor. Also makes it easier to have the conversation with the client. So it actually helps move the MSP in the right direction and encapsulates their entire ecosystem very, very well. We have 180 MSPs actively participating in the Trustmark today. In total, we have almost, maybe we are over the 900 mark now that have expressed interest. Some are ready, some are not ready. Those that are actively going through at that 180 mark. Others, we keep adding to that interest list all the time. Trustmark. One of the other programs we're planning on launching later this year is a Chief Information Security Officer Advisory Program. So again, a lot of solopreneurs do not have the experience. Heck, even I would say the majority of MSPs, the average MSP being 10 people, they don't have the experience or the revenue today to be able to hire somebody with the experience at the level of being a CISO, right? So in order for them to be able to succeed on the business side of having that risk discussion, we thought it was going to be very important to start up a group that can actually help advise folks, at least give them their thoughts on how they would tackle some things. That's also going to raise that awareness and understanding on the MSP side, right? One of the other programs that launched last year is an emergency response team. We do coaching and mentoring for folks. Don't have to be a CompTIA member. If you suspect that you've had an incident and you just want someone to kind of, could you lose your mind at that point? What's going on, right? Robert Chiaffi was one of the members who actually helped start and launch this emergency response team. So there's a, there's a reason why this exists today. So that's there. We don't do incident response. We don't do forensics. Just kind of help coach through. Did you call the attorney? Did you get a hold of the insurance? Are you feeding your crew? Is your significant other aware you're not going to be home for a little while? That kind of stuff. And then, of course, we have the Information Sharing and Analysis Organization, which is really what foundationally started the cybersecurity programs team here at CompTIA. MJ Shore was the very first executive director. The ISAO is a threat intelligence mechanism, not only for receiving feeds from other entities, but as a community, we share information in there about things we might be seeing and if anybody else is seeing it, so we can kind of validate what's going on in the community as a whole. So there's a huge resource for folks to be able to take advantage of. And the ISAO for the solution providers is actually included in your annual membership with CompTIA. So
lots of benefits.
Lots of benefits. And we're always adding stuff, right? That's the fortunate thing of being a self-funded not-for-profit, is that all the revenue we make gets turned around and tossed right back into member programs, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a lot of fun.
A big fan of, you mentioned, of course, Robert Chiaffi, known for quite a while, and MJ Shore as well. Really smart, engaging gentleman. So we talked about ConnectWise before. You spent some time there. Of course, they have their big pitch it, where the MSPs, not necessarily MSPs, they're vendors, but a lot of them are former MSPs, have solutions. And ConnectWise has a big pitch it event, and you helped last year. Talk to me about that and your engagement there. Did you enjoy that?
I did, actually. I was a fill-in.
That's right, for MJ.
He ended up, I can't even remember what happened now, but he was unable to make the Connect IT Nation Connect event to do the pitch it judge thing. So I said to Sean, I'm happy to fill in. I mean, I think it would be a great time. And you're right. I mean, I knew most of the folks up on stage that were pitching their solutions. A lot of great ideas, a lot of great concepts, a lot of great solutions. Honestly, but technology isn't always your answer. Make sure you need that first. Right?
Yes, your people process, then the technology.
Yep.
Yeah. I was at the event, of course. I haven't missed an IT Nation since 2007. And but that was really cool room. You were up there, and they were presenting up there. But it's a long road to get there. There was 3 finalists there, but I think they started with over 20 or 30. I'm not quite sure. And they kind of refined it down, and they have a whole onboarding, and they're giving all those applicants are given so much resources. It's going to be even larger this year. It's just a wonderful thing with Pitch It. I'm happy to be part of it this year as well. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Yes. It's an amazing. It's just fun to sit in the room at Pitch It and just listen to the stories, right?
Yes.
And have them talk about their solutions and how they have or what their impact they're trying to achieve on the community as a whole. I mean, that in and of itself is just a winner chicken dinner as far as I'm concerned. You know, because again, they're doing it for the right reason. They're wanting to help the community. Like you said, some of the MSPs have converted and did some product development, some solution development because they saw a need, right? The old robots, see a need, fill a need, kind of concept. And that's what really made it a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. 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 It's just really cool. I mean, we created a solution for my MSP too. We had a particular need and we brought it to market. I mean, it's just, ConnectWise themselves was created from an MSP that had a need, Arnie and David, right here in Tampa. So I started my small business, my MSP, back in '93, and you're no stranger to this. You were doing it for 5 years. You were working very long hours, right? And very tough. And of course, I was sacrificing my diet, and I wasn't eating well. I was staying up late, lots of pizza, lots of soda, Wayne, and I had a checkup, and doctors, I found myself at 340 pounds, and the doctor said to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. So, it hit me hard. So I spent the next 6-7 months, lost about 130 pounds, and kept it off. And people they hear the story, and what's the secret? What's the quick fix? Kind of like cybersecurity. Everybody thinks it's a quick fix, just one kind of magic bullet. And I always say, how I did it is discipline. Right, I got focused, I had discipline, and that's how I lost it. People, there's no secret at all. I wonder, given your military background, all your your extraordinary career, where you are now, how discipline plays a role in your life, Wayne. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to be disciplined and vigilant, right? And I think,
vigilant.
yep, both of those kind of tie back into my military career. Making sure that you're consistently doing the things that you need to in order to improve your processes overall. There's the hit for cybersecurity, right? Always looking, reevaluating, is there some way I can actually do this better? Make myself more efficient, make myself more effective. How can I get the word out to the masses so that they understand this is not insurmountable from a cyber perspective, right? You're going to get hit. If you haven't been hit yet, two things: either you don't know it and they're already in, or two, it's coming, right? So, it's funny, Joe. I used this once as an analogy during one of my talks. When we drive down the street, we see street numbers or street addresses, right? Street numbers, street names, etc. And every once in a while, you drive through the neighborhood and you see a garage door open, right? That's an entry point. A pretty big entry point, I might add.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, an entry point. It could be a window cracked in the front bedroom, right? Again, an entry point. And the thing I think most MSPs need to remember, and for their small end clients as well, they're nothing more than a street number on the information superhighway. You're just an IP address. They don't know who, what type of business, what type of data, until they actually find a way in and start rummaging around. So that goes to the vigilance side, right? We first have to understand that we need to have these processes in place, people aligned to process, aligned to tech, all the way through our risk to our objectives, right? And then stay vigilant to know, are all the doors closed? Are the windows locked? Did I forget to close the garage door? Right? When you went on vacation. I mean, all of those things kind of play a role for businesses today. And I don't care if you're an MSP. I don't care if you're a coffee shop down the street.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. There's customer data on that point of sale system.
Yeah, there certainly is. Getting back to discipline, I mean, have you always considered yourself a disciplined person?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So.
I am. I'm disciplined. I have a very I usually up by 6:30 in the morning.
Mm.
I start my day promptly at 8, sometimes earlier, depending upon if I have other regional calls I need to worry about. Um, and I'll go I finished until I finished what I need to work on for the day.
Mm.
Right. So yes,
A lot of structure, a lot of order, a lot of routine.
yes, I have fun too. I do have
Yeah.
fun. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. What kind of fishing you like? You're a big fisherman.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. My aunt and uncle used to own a resort in Minnesota on Big Turtle Lake, just outside of Marcel. So we were up there every summer for 2 weeks. So a lot of freshwater. I do enjoy saltwater fishing. Um, I did for my 50th. I chartered a boat and down in the Keys and tried to grab some Dorado. Caught one. The deckhand lost the other one. I was not a happy camper.
Mm-mm.
Didn't keep tension on the line. Anyway, yes, love fishing. Love fishing.
Hmm. What motivates you, Wayne?
In my current role, what motivates me is helping the community.
Mm.
You know, I'm happy to talk to anybody. You know, if there's some experience that I have that I can shed some guidance, some advice, might be right for your org, might not be right for your org today, but at least give you something to think about.
And I would assume personally be your grandkids.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, yep. Grandkids are number one. The fun part about that is my wife knows it.
Mm.
So yeah, if we have an opportunity to see the grandkids, that's it. Drop everything and go.
How do you measure success, Wayne?
Uh, Here at CompTIA, I measure success by the aha moments for the solution providers around cybersecurity. I get it now. Thank you. Um, personally, personally measure success. Look, I'm just going to be honest. I'm ready to retire.
Mm.
um, so I've I've done all the hard work. I spent a lot of time. You know, it was nothing to do 60, 80, 90-hour weeks for a very long period of time. It takes a lot out of you. I've achieved success more times over than I care to admit. Personally, you know, I've got three great grandkids, two beautiful daughters, lovely wife, nice home. We travel. We're fortunate enough there as well. So, I mean, success to me is, you know, just getting to enjoy however much time I have left.
Wonderful sentiment. Wayne, I was really excited when we set this up. I've seen you, over the last 30 years, kind of in passing. You have a very familiar face. I'm sure you've seen me as well. We've never formally, seen each other. I'm glad this was set up, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the road in the future, and maybe, we'll have a drink and share some laughs. Thank you so much for your time. Anybody listening, how can they get in touch with you?
That's real easy. You can ping me on LinkedIn. You can email me at wselk@comptia.org. Those are probably the two easiest ways to get a hold of me. If you need any help whatsoever around, maybe something's just been bothering you with cybersecurity. Why is this important? How am I? Just reach out. I mean,
Mm.
if I tell everybody on my weekly podcast, if I don't have the answer, we have others in the community that are willing to help too. So, and it doesn't cost you anything. That's the best part.
The real giving community, the MSP. I love it. I love it. I
Yes.
sold mine in 2019, and I still very much am part of it, and just from a different angle. But I love it, and we're helping small, medium businesses out there in the world grow, and it benefits everyone. Wayne, thanks again so much for your time. You have a great day. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
You be well.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.